Capital Sports Audio, New York edition. I'm Dave Ferry with Mike Mancuso, and let's see, NHL check, NBA check, NFL not ready yet. What do we got? You know what? We've usually been saving the Mets for last. Let's just do an all Mets thing. Tell me about your thoughts of first about the Cubs series, and then the firing of Carlos Mendoza as manager.
Well, Dave, welcome. The Cubs series was just, you know, the final uh, exclamation point on what has been a disaster of a first half for this team. They looked bad in every way, shape, and form. They did everything wrong in the series, and just when you thought it couldn't get worse, they make six errors in one game, and they could have made nine errors in that game. As some of the radio co-hosts and writers mentioned, there were plays that went as hits or non-plays that could have been errors as well. So, you know, again, guys make errors, and remember Bob Murphy used to say that's why they put erasers on pencils. But this is a systematic problem on this team and in this franchise, and I think they were left with no other choice. However, to put this on Mendoza is just irresponsible, but the manager has to take the hit, and he was given nothing to work with. And what he was given to work with was a square peg in a round hole, and it wasn't going to work, and it was doomed to fail. And uh, this is all on the feet of David Stearns, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think to a point, yeah. But ownership also has to take a hit on this as
Oh no,
well.
yes, yeah, I agree because he enabled him to do this.
Yeah.
Um, and I think what happened was Cohen was very leery of wanting to be known as this, George Steinbrenner light, owner who was very, intrusive. And I think he wanted to lay back. He waited 2 years to hire Stearns, and he wasn't just going to let him go after 2.5 years. So I think that's why Stearns is here. But having said that, he's made gazillions of dollars by being ruthless and cutthroat. And, if he wants this to succeed, where are the results? And the results are just not good.
No, they are not. Um, here was my thought with the move. Did Mendy have to go? I mean, somebody had to go.
Somebody had to
And
go.
and honestly, this was almost like a mercy killing.
Hmm.
Because I mean, I was feeling bad for him. And you know, you're you're going into these news conferences after every game, and guys are asking you why you did this, why you did that. And I know all Mendy wanted to do was, what the hell was I supposed to do? Look at what I'm saddled with.
Yep, absolutely. And he was put in a position where he had to be the front man uh, for just malpractice being run in the front office. And, now to his credit, Stearns would always meet the media once a homestand. So he was out front. But I think his out front appearances hurt him more than helped him because he never gave you a straight answer. He had that coy, sarcastic look about him that
Hmm.
I'm the smartest guy in the room. I know what I'm doing. And the press conference that he had on Friday, which I was covering, and you and I have been doing this for a very long time. I don't remember the last time I was left so unimpressed after listening to a press conference from a president of baseball operations or a general manager. And a couple of times that I was ready to ask questions, they were already asked. So I was not able to ask a direct question myself, but it was just so maddening and see, here's where I'm in the middle. Okay. I have to be a reporter and not and just be fair and balanced, but I'm also a fan. So there are very few people that are in the position that I am, and I know you are a fan as well, but you're not at the ballpark every day. So I see things, I see how the sausage is made, and to some degree, because not everybody sees everything. And you just left that press conference feeling like, you know, this is not going to work. This guy's clueless. This guy's full of trash. and his vision of building a baseball team is just not going to work.
No, I mean,
And to
you
a
look
degree,
at
it worked
all
in Milwaukee, but this is a different market.
you look at all of his offseason moves, and with the exception of the bullpen, everything else has backfired and backfired badly. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Robert, Semien, honestly, Semien's playing like I thought Semien would play, but
Which
Bichette
is
has been
not good enough for the return for a Nimmo
no,
by a long shot.
no.
And here's the thing, Dave, and you and I even probably talked about this during the winter while this was going on. When you started reading the reports that they were interested in a certain player or they were going to make a move or not make a move, I could think of half a dozen times where I'm standing up like, no, don't do this. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
This is not going to work. And it, he went ahead and did it anyway. Not that he's going to listen to me or listen to the fans because he's got to run his business the way he wants to. But the move, it was a freight train coming. And, you again, it's maddening because I don't know why I still care. Usually reporters are in a place where they lose their fandom, but in some cases people keep it. And with the Mets, I've kept it. And I don't know why, but it's like you said, everything he's touched has been a disaster.
It's funny. I'm watching Brett Beatty play second base yesterday, and I'm like, they worked so hard last season trying to get rid of Brett Beatty, and now he's back at second. And it reminded me of remember when we were kids and the Mets had Wayne Garrett at third base, and it was like every year they found a new third baseman to replace Wayne Garrett. It was Joe Foy, then Bob Aspromani, then Jim Fregosi, and every July, you'd see Wayne Garrett back in the starting role at third base because they couldn't get anybody competent to replace him.
Yeah,
And,
it's
here's Beatty.
right. And well, and you know what? I think you have to put Beatty in the same category with Alvarez and Vientos. And I think Vientos is the first guy that's got to go. But, you know, I'm throwing my hands up because I really don't know what to do. And the only reason to watch this team is Carson Benj and AJ Ewing and I guess Juan Soto and Nolan McLean and Christian Scott. The rest of them, there's no reason to watch. There's no reason to watch this team. And you know,
Oh,
you
I totally disagree. The best thing to watch about this team is Gary, Keith, and Ron. Because when
oh
this team is terrible,
right.
they are better. They are
Yeah,
funnier. I'd rather hear Keith spew about a gas station experience he had for a half hour than watch this team go down 13-2.
yeah. That's a good point. But you think about the things that he did during the offseason, and I'm going to lose the chronological order a little bit, but the number one thing by far and away was the Alonso thing. There
Mm-hmm.
was no reason that he should not have been re-signed. And what's insulting to fans is that listen, fans are not going to be able to run the front office. That's on Stearns. That's his job. But when you make such a polarizing move, you at least owe your fans some type of explanation because they are your consumers. And you don't have to be completely honest with them,
Yeah.
but at least give them something. Just say, well, we didn't think the contract would age well, or we think that he was, his bat speed might, decrease in the next couple of years. Just give them some line of crap to just acknowledge that they're teed off because that was, I'll use the word for a second time, it was malpractice not to bring him back. He was the perfect protection for Soto in the lineup. He was a bit goofy, but he was a fun goofy. He was, a homegrown talent who wanted to be here. The
Yeah.
fans loved him. And keep in mind, they offered Kyle Tucker $250 million. Okay. I think we mentioned this last week. Okay. And Kyle Tucker's a more athletic player. But you want to add up their numbers 3 years from now, Dave? I guarantee you that Alonso surpasses Kyle Tucker's numbers by
And
a large percentage. It was a stupid move.
you know what really irritated me about his departure, Alonso's departure? If he had gotten a mammoth contract, I would have said, okay, all right, that's fine. He signs a 3-year deal with the Orioles, who don't spend money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. It was, and don't
Face
know.
of the franchise. I mean, the face of the franchise, and you give him the bum's rush.
Yeah, and there's not a lot. They didn't get off to a good start, and that's going to definitely drive attendance down and take the excitement out of the building. But even when they started playing a little better, sometime in the middle of May, the buzz is gone, and this
Yeah.
fan base is. I'm going to quote Joe Benigno, who is a good buddy of mine who does the shows on WFAN, a very passionate fan. I know you know of him. Uh, since Tom Seaver, this was the worst move they've made. And it has a ripple effect that they're going to pay for. So you let Alonso go, and you want to say he was weak at first base. So you're going to give Polanco, who is an injury-prone veteran, $20 million to come play first base when he's never played first base before. And in his press conference, Stern says the guys aren't playing to the back of their cards. Well, I would disagree with that. They are. The back of their cards say they've all been hurt the last 3 and 4 years. So
Yeah.
what makes you think this year would be any different?
Yeah. And
Okay.
Semien is hitting like he did last season. So there's
But
no surprise there. Meanwhile,
and
they what would be great is if the National League had the designated hitter, we could have kept along. Oh, that's right. We have the designated hitter.
yeah. Yeah. Again, yeah. It just another thing about the Simeon move, okay. If they were so caught up in Nemo's contract being 5 years, Simeon is 3 years left.
Yeah.
Simeon is actually
Alonso
making
has 3 years,
well, whatever he got. I think he got four from the Orioles, but
but
that's
he has walks in it.
okay. Well, Simeon is making $26 million a year for the next 2 years. Nimmo is making 20. So right there is 12 million. Okay.
Okay.
So you were so worried about the extra money for Nimmo's last 2 years of his contract that you trade him for a guy that's 4 years older than him with diminishing offensive numbers. His defense is supposed to be gold glove and it's not even close. Okay. And I don't mean to trash on Simeon, but the reality is he's 4 years older. He's completely diminished. And you allow 25 home runs and 95 RBIs to walk out the door to get an offensive player that's going to hit 212.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. And then you go trade for Luis Robert, another guy who's been on the injury list for the last 3 or 4 years. That was a ridiculous move. And I don't even care who they traded in that trade. Just to bring him over, you know, and then you could even go as far as to say the trade where they let Rogers go, the relief pitcher. He was
Hmm.
the one relief pitcher that was Tyler Rogers, that was pretty good for the Mets last year. You let him go as a free agent to Toronto, and he was unsigned for quite a while. You traded two young guys, including Drew Gilbert, to the Giants for him, and you let them walk for nothing.
Yeah.
You got no return on those young players, and I don't know how Gilbert is a middling player with the Giants right now, but again, the moves just keep piling on. It's just one after another, and then it's embarrassment.
And you can go back to before Stearns. Who's playing center for the Cubs?
Well,
Where did he
that
come from?
there's another issue that you could discuss, and that was a Eric. You know, that was a Lindor move. Lindor wanted Baez.
Hmm.
And somehow, again, believe half of what you see and none of what you're reading here. But the word is he pushed heavily on ownership to bring Baez in. Okay. And again, that was another one. No, don't do this. Why are you considering this? Forget who they traded for, right? But now, how great would Pete Crow Armstrong look? But again, you know, just ridiculous. Another ridiculous trade, and
Yeah.
and I'm waiting for them to announce they're going to trade Carson Benj and AJ Ewing for a couple of veteran players someplace. They're going to
Well,
get hurt.
I think there is a limit to their absurdity, and that would cross the line.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
here's what I would have done. All right, I like Andy Tracy, good guy, good interim manager. All right, and I'll put. I would have done this, and this is seeing the way the Mets hired Gil Hodges and gave him 1 year as just an evaluator. How the Islanders fired Phil Goyette, brought in one of their scouts, Earl Ingerfield, just as an evaluator. What I would do is this. We have a guy by the name of Carlos Beltran in the front office. I would have made him the interim manager for the rest of the season. And at the end of the year, if things go well, I would have gone to Carlos and said, if you want the job, you got the job. If things don't go well, I say, Carlos, do you want to be general manager? And by then, if he becomes a general manager, he's already been sitting in that dugout for 3 months, looking at that team firsthand.
No.
I don't think Andy Tracy has a future with the Mets. And if he does, to be
Andy
honest with you,
Green, right? You mean Andy Green?
Andy Green, I'm sorry, Andy Tracy. I'm watching the Red Sox game while we're talking.
But Andy Green is the in charge of player development for the Mets.
Yeah.
So he's going back to that job.
Well,
Okay.
you
And he
hope.
made that very clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that'll be an interesting dynamic. And but
I
again,
just don't I just don't know if there's any dynamic in Green. Whereas
yeah.
with Beltran, I think people would stand up and take notice. They hired him once before. I don't know why they didn't give him the job again. And
Well,
if we're
he's
going back
involved
to
as
the
an
Astros,
ambassador. He's with the organization.
yeah, but he also wants to be a front office guy.
Right. No.
And
Who
he's,
knows?
he's I don't know.
It's very maddening, Dave, because we care and we see stuff that you shake your head at, and it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And I mean, even to the levels that Steve Gelbs is doing a stand-up and Mr. Met's bobbing in the background. I
Hmm.
don't know if you saw that. Right? It's like they just don't get stuff sometimes, and it's like, what are we doing? And it's just, and you know what? Again, all right, Mendoza, I liked him, but it didn't work. It was time for a change. But to me, David Stearns has to take responsibility
Yeah.
for this entire mess.
Yeah.
And again, ultimately, it goes up to Steve Cohen because he hired, but I don't think he wants to fire him right away. But, you know,
Do you want him
there's
to handle
nothing
this
nothing that
draft?
inspires confidence. I get what choice do we have? You're 3 weeks away from the draft. You know,
Well,
uh,
how about this? You keep Green at his old job for 3 weeks. You keep Mendoza where he is. This team's not going anywhere. And then you
you know what? It got so bad, and I was at a couple of those Cub games
oh,
at
I know.
City
I
Field.
watched them.
It had to, you had to get rid of the manager. You had to do something.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, something did have to be done.
right.
But
So
this team is just I I don't want to say unwatchable because yeah, they do have bench and they do have Ewing and I like watching them play. Um Christian Scott, I think he's a keeper. Um, they have some talent in the system. A lot of it is not ready yet. I'm not sure Christian Scott is completely ready yet.
yeah.
Um, you know, oh, here's another guy who's starting to look good. I don't know if you saw his last start, Brendan Sproat.
Well, with one start,
I know,
let's. But,
but it's been one in a series of about three straight where he's looked good.
right,
The other night he looked particularly good.
right. I'm gonna pivot for you a second. There is an undercurrent about the shortstop that maybe they let the wrong guy go, and maybe Francisco Lindor. And again, you're never going to trade him because he's got a big contract and nobody's going to take it. But I think maybe Steve Cohen got a little too close to him, and that's part of the reason why I think he wasn't named captain, because everybody knows how close they are, and I think that Cohen's way of not showing complete favoritism is, all right, I'm not going to name you captain. Now that might have pissed Lindor off a little bit, and Lindor is a Hall of Fame type player. He hustles. I think he cares about winning, but he also likes. You know what? I don't want to say that he loves the camera a little bit too much, but I do think that he's still here and everybody else is gone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, yeah, my
maybe.
My
They
thought,
weren't the problem.
my thought with the captaincies in baseball, it's silly. It really is silly. We knew Keith Hernandez was the captain for the 3 years before he became captain. And
Right.
honestly, he did a better job as captain when he wasn't captain.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
The
And
the way the Greg Jeffries maturation process was so botched by this team
right.
and so botched by the veterans.
Well, that team was the Wild West, and they saw Jeffries as fresh meat.
Yeah, well,
And
they also saw him as a threat to players that had been there for a few years,
right.
i.e.,
And didn't
very
hurt.
popular Timmy Tuffle, very
Yeah.
popular Wally Backman.
And what didn't help Jeffries was he had a major chip on his shoulders walking
Oh,
in.
it
And
wasn't a
that,
chip. He just was an arrogant little cuss.
yeah, you know what? I don't know if it was arrogant as much as it was, because
He
that's about when
felt
I started. He was very cockily confident. And I think the veterans didn't like that. Like show you, be quiet, rookie, but yeah, that didn't work. But listen, God, that's a long time ago. Wow.
this is also the same guy who didn't want his bats packed with the other players.
Yeah.
I mean,
So sometimes you get what you deserve, right?
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Which
but
is
as
why
far
they
as this,
sawed all of his bats in half one day.
I remember, I forgot that I remembered that. Uh,
Very good, Yogi.
but I do think that, you know, they might have been better off. It's not going to happen, but maybe they should move Lindor, see if they can get somebody to take him, because I don't, you know what? I don't know. He doesn't socialize, or not that you have to socialize. Him and Soto are not,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and Soto's not going anywhere.
No.
So,
Well, my issue isn't with Lindor's contract anymore. It's his age. I don't know if
well,
anybody would pick up the freight on that. I mean, the Mets may have gotten the best years out of
I
Lindor's
agree.
contract already.
Yeah, I agree. But, at the same time now, what happens? What do you do?
Yeah,
Just remember, AJ Ewing was an infielder. He was a second baseman primarily and then a shortstop. Okay. He's playing center field like he owns it.
yeah.
Okay. So,
Athletes can do that. That's how Mickey
yeah,
Stanley played shortstop in the '68 World Series.
he's still. So Dave, I don't know where they go from here. I don't know what they do. I just, you know, and would again, I understand that you want to get away from them. All right. If you wanted to trade him, fine, but you shouldn't have gotten Simeon back. You should have gotten something else. Okay. The perfect player on this team right now is Alonso. And at the end of the day, how many more wins would they have if Pete played? There was some numbers I saw on social media, which we all know can't be very reliable, but they said that the Mets would be 4 to 5 games better. So
Mhm.
again, they'd still be underwater, but at least, you know,
At least they'd
what
be
you were talking
watchable.
about last week of being
And
skinny distance
you put a
out
bat
there.
like Alonso in the lineup, and you have Soto now with protection. You now have Bichette now with protection.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling what's happened to that franchise. And I was talking to our friend Tom Mariam at the game today for a little bit, and he makes some very good points. Uh, Cohen's a businessman, and his business is going to take a significant hit in the second half of this season with TV ratings,
Hmm.
attendance, and you know all the pomp and circumstance that goes with it. So at the end of the season, he's going to look at his books and say, you know what? My TV ratings are down 35%. I'm now getting 60 cents on the dollar for ad sales in the stadium. You know, I'm in last place.
Hmm.
And he's going to look to David Stearns and go, what did you do to me?
Yeah, yeah. And it's not just ticket sale, Mike. It's ticket resale
Yeah, it's
because
all that.
The Mets are making this whole thing with Ticketmaster where the team gets 10% or 15% of the resale price going both ways.
Yeah.
Uh, it's a big hit, and I know that the TV ratings at this point are more important than ticket sales. But yeah, it's going to be a you know you're throwing out a lot of hot dogs at the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, it's even signage at the stadium. we want to put Capital Sports Audio up on the left field fence. We're going to pay 60% less next year, and that's all.
Well, listen, you start negotiations, okay? I'll sign. We
But
could wind up with Capital Sports Audio Field.
we're laughing, but it's crying because they took away our baseball season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did again,
yeah.
again. But
But
anyway, let's wrap it up. Next week, I don't know what we have. we'll we'll deal with the Yankees, and yeah, maybe the Mets will go 2-5, and we can all celebrate.
yeah, very good.
All
All
right,
right.
Mike. For Mike Mancuso, I'm Dave Ferry, Capital Sports Audio.